Hello, everyone. My name is Sierra St. Arnold. I am currently a gold consultant here on Team Horizon, and today we are going to be going over how to create a Google form so that you can get all of the basic information from your potential clients before you even speak to them. You can actually just Google Forms and it will come up, and then you'll just need to log into your Gmail account or whatever you have. And it should bring you to this page right here. So we're just going to start from a blank one because we're going to be kind of making it our own. And once you do that, it's going to allow you to edit all of the fields, add all the questions, things like that. So what I like to name this is the travel inquiry form because that's exactly what they're doing. They're inquiring about travel. If you want to, you can fill in a description right here. It's not required. Personally, for me, I don't have one on mine. But if you want to, you can put something in here like, thanks so much for considering us for your business. We would love to help plan a trip. Please give us all the details of your upcoming trip that you can, something like that if you wanted to. But personally, for me, I don't have anything in that field. And then what we're going to do, it's already going to have the questions. So when you go down here, it's going to have a little bit of stuff filled in, but we're obviously going to change all of this. The first thing you want to know is your client's first and last name. You want to know who you're speaking to when you reach out to them, things like that. And most of the time it's going to automate what they are going to answer with. So this is going to be a short answer text. That means that they are going to be able to enter in their own answer. They don't have to pick from anything, which obviously would not make any sense because they're putting in their name. And you want to make sure that you have this as a required field because you want to know who you're talking to when you reach out to them. You don't want to just call and say, hey, I got this form about a Cancun trip. I don't know who you are. You want to know who you're speaking to so that you can be more professional. So that's the first thing that we're going to get from them. And then over here, if you click this little plus button, you can add another question. The next thing you're going to want from them is their email address. And again, it's going to populate to a short answer text so that they can enter their email address on their own. And all of these you want to make required because you want to have all the information about your client and how to get in touch with them. The next thing we're going to add is their phone number. So if they decide that they want to be texted or called, that you have a way to reach out to them. Again, you want to make this required. And then we're going to ask them for their preferred communication method because some people don't like to text. Some people only want you to call them on the phone, or some people only want you to email them. So what I'm going to put is preferred communication method. But then I'm going to also put in parentheses that all quotes will be sent via email with a corresponding phone call to discuss. And the reason that I put this is because personally for me, I like to email the quotes to my client, but I also like to get on the phone with them to go over what I've provided in those quotes if they have any questions or anything like that. Sorry, I misspelled this. To discuss in detail. So you don't necessarily have to put with a corresponding phone call. That's just personally what I do because like I said, I like to get my clients on the phone, go over everything with them, make sure that we have that personal relationship. And if they have any questions or concerns that I can address those right away. I don't have to wait for anything. And then this one, we are actually going to give multiple choice. So we're going to say email. We're going to go down and add a text option, and then we're going to add a phone call option. And they will be required to answer this. And usually people will only select one. If they select more than one, then just pick the one that you are the most comfortable doing. So that is what I do for that. And like I said, I always let them know that all quotes will be sent via email because there's really no other way to send them a full on quote without sending it via email. So we may text back and forth, but once I'm done with the quote, I'm going to send it via email. So I want them to know that. And then I also like to add a question in here that says, how did you hear about us? And the reason that I do this is because I market on multiple different platforms. So I use Facebook, I use Instagram, I use TikTok, I leave business cards places, I'm in networking groups, all kinds of different things. So I like to know, and I leave this as a short answer so that they can answer, I don't want to limit it to what they have found me from. So I do this because I want to know, where did they hear about me? Which of my marketing methods seem to work the most? Personally, for me right now, it's TikTok, and I like to see that that is working because if I'm putting a lot of effort into something and then I'm not actually getting clients from it, then I'm probably going to either figure out a new way to do that or I'm not going to do that marketing method anymore. So this is personally why I like to add this. You don't have to, but I like it because I like to know, how did you hear about me? Where is my information getting out to? Things like that. And then we are going to go to the next question. So the next question is probably the most important. Where do you want to travel to? Where would you like to travel to? And again, I'm going to leave this a short answer, and it's going to be required because sometimes people may not know exactly where they want to go, but they know that they want to go somewhere warm, or they may have a couple different options of where they want to go. So I want to kind of get an idea of what they're interested in, where they're interested in going. The next question I'm going to ask, how many people are going? How many people? And then I want to break it down by how many adults and how many children, because that is going to change pricing. If it's going to be a family, obviously I'm not going to be able to send them to a adults only resort. So I just want to know the number of people that are going. Again, this is going to be a short answer, and it is going to be required. I need to know how many people are going with you. The next question I'm going to add in is actually not going to be required, but it is important. So I'm going to say, if there are children in your group, I can't spell today, y'all, in your group, what will be their ages at the time of travel? And that's important because they may be 6 right now, or they may be, 17 right now, but by the time they travel, they're going to be 18. So they're no longer classified as a child. So I need to know what their ages are going to be. And I also put in a little blurb here that says children are age 17 and younger, and under, because I have had some adults come and fill out my form, and obviously it's their child, but their child's like 30 years old. That doesn't count as a child as far as age goes. So I also like to make this a short answer so that they can enter all the different ages. The reason that I don't make this question required is because if there are no children going, then obviously there are not going to be any children's ages. So I just assume that if they put that there will be children going, that they know that this question is for them, but obviously that's not going to be a question for anybody or for everybody. So I like to know how many people, and if there's children, what will their ages be at the time of travel? That's very important because, like I said, if someone is 17 now, but by the time they travel, they'll be 18, then their pricing may change a little bit. So I want to make sure of that. The next question, again, kind of important, is what are your travel dates? So some people are going to know exactly when they want to go. Some people are not. They're going to be a little bit more flexible. So I also like to include, if you do not have specific dates in mind, please include months / time of year you prefer, because some people will come to you and they have very flexible schedules and they know that they want to go in October, but they don't really care what dates. Some people will come and say, I want to go in October, but it doesn't matter. I just want to go for this many days, whatever's the cheapest in the month of October. So that's why I put, if they don't have specific dates in mind, to please include the time of year that they prefer to go. And then the next question, this is not going to be a required question because, kind of like the question before, some people may have specific dates, so they don't need to answer this. So I put, if you do not have specific dates in mind, how many nights would you like your trip to be? Again, I don't make this required because if they do have specific dates, then they don't need to answer this because I've already got how many nights they need. However, if they're like, any time in October is good, we want to go for 7 nights. That kind of helps me narrow down and figure out what I need to look for. So I don't make that a required question. The next question that I want to ask is about their budget. So I always put, and you can kind of word this a few different ways. Personally, for me, I put, what are you comfortable spending for your total trip? You can also ask, what are you comfortable spending per person? What is your budget for this trip? Things like that. I also include this on mine just because I've had some people come to me and say, I don't have a budget, or I don't know, or things like that. And come to find out they were just window shopping. They weren't actually going to book with me anyway, and I wasted a lot of time. So I have actually started adding this to my form. You don't have to do this. It's totally personal preference. I have just found that this helps me figure out who is serious about booking with me and who is not. So I put this in all caps, that it must be a dollar amount, or the inquiry form will not be reviewed. And some people may think that that's a little harsh. However, like I said, I don't like for people to waste my time. I want to know kind of what I'm working with. I want to know if they have a realistic budget for what they want, because some people will come to you and they will think that you are a magician and you are not. So that kind of helps me figure out, who's serious about actually booking this trip, who is actually going to be a good fit for me as a client, things like that. And I do make this a required field. So if they put something like, I don't know, or I don't have a budget, when they put that they don't have a budget, that's a little bit different. However, if they say, I don't know, or something like that, then that tells me that they haven't really thought this trip through very much, and they don't really know how much they want to spend. So I personally put this in here. You are not required to do that by any means, totally personal preference. And like I said, you can always put, what are you comfortable spending per person as well, because sometimes for people that's a little bit easier. But I do make this a required field because obviously I want to know what kind of budget we're working with, if it's going to be doable at all before I even speak to them. So after that, I ask, how soon are you able to pay a deposit? And the reason that I ask this is because, which again, you're going to want to make a short answer and make it required, because for example, if right now it's November, if someone sends me an inquiry form, but they're not ready to pay for a deposit until next June, then there's really no point in me looking for a trip for them, because by June, that's 7 months from now. So prices are going to change, availability is going to change, all of that stuff. So if they're not ready to pay a deposit now, I kind of let them know at whatever point you are ready to pay a deposit, then I will be happy to provide you a quote, but I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time, things like that. So I also make that a required field. A lot of people will say immediately. Some people will say it depends on the price, things like that. But I always get on the phone with them after I receive this form to kind of go over those things with them. The next thing you want to ask is, what are they wanting included in their quote? So what would you like included in your quote? And I always put airport transfers and travel insurance included on all of my packages. So I do have a little blurb about that on my form. It just says, please note that round trip airport transfers and travel insurance will be included on all international trip quotes. You do not have to put that by any means. I just do that because that is one of those things that I have as a non-negotiable for my clients. I don't do anything without those, unless of course they have their own transfer company that maybe they get discounts with or something like that. But for the most part, I don't waver on that. So I make sure that everyone knows that those are included on international trips. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make check boxes so that they can actually choose more than one. So I'm going to include hotel, because if they're not going out of the country, then obviously an all-inclusive is not an option. They just need a hotel. But I am also going to put all-inclusive on here. I'm going to put a vacation rental, because sometimes people are open to multiple different options. So let's say they're going to Florida, maybe they're okay with staying in a hotel, but if you find them a vacation rental, they'd be okay with that too. So that's why I allow them to check more than one thing. I also put flights, rental car, and then I put cruise on here because some people just want to go on a cruise. And then the last thing that I include is excursions / activities. And I kind of give some examples of what those are. So tours, museum tickets, sports tickets, etc. And then what they can do is they can actually check off when they're filling out the form which things they want. So I know I have some people, personally for me, I have some clients that are flight attendants, so they don't need me to book their flights. They can do that on their own. But they need me to book their all-inclusive, or they need me to book their hotel. So they may just come in and check all-inclusive, and then they may want some excursions, but they don't need flights. Or for a cruise, if they live near a cruise port, and if they're within driving distance, they may not need flights. They may just need a cruise and activities, so on and so forth. So that's why I give them all those different options so that I know what they want included in their quote. Because if someone comes to me and their quote is $1,000 for a week in Cancun and all they want is an all-inclusive, then that's definitely doable. However, if they want a week in Cancun for $1,000 and they want flights and an all-inclusive and excursions, then I may need to have a conversation with them about what their budget actually entails and what they can get for that budget. So this kind of helps me get an idea before I speak to them what they are looking for. And I do make this a required field as well, because obviously I want to know what they need in their quote. The next thing that I ask is, if you are in need of flights, what is your preferred airport? And this, I do not make a required question, because again, they may not need flights. So they don't need flights, and I don't need to know what their preferred airport is. So I put that, and then obviously they can enter in any airport that's close to them. Sometimes people will only give you one. Sometimes people will give you a couple if they're, within driving distance to multiple airports. It just kind of depends. But that's why I like to ask, if you're in need of flights, what is your preferred airport? The next thing I like to ask, and this is just for personal preference, is this trip for a special occasion? Because if it's for a birthday or an anniversary or a honeymoon or something like that, I want to know that because I may be able to get them extra perks. I may be able to get their room decorated for their birthday or whatever it is. So I like to know if this trip is for a special occasion. And if so, what is that occasion so that I can make note of it whenever I book their trip. Again, I don't make this a required field because if it's not for a special occasion, then obviously they don't need to fill that part out. And then the last thing that I put on here is there anything else I should know about your trip or expectations? And the reason that I do this is because sometimes I'll have clients, maybe they are special needs, so they need a resort that is accessible for a wheelchair, or I know I have some people that say safety is really important to me. So if they don't have a specific destination in mind, they're like, we don't really care. We just want somewhere that's safe. That kind of helps me narrow it down. Obviously, I'm not going to send clients somewhere that's unsafe. However, it just kind of lets me know what they are thinking about, what is top priority for them. Sometimes people will put in here, right now, it's just me and my husband going. However, we may have friends that want to go, later on, things like that. And then that kind of gives me an idea of, what else to expect. Again, I don't require this field at all. This is just totally if they want to add other things. If there's anything that they feel was not included in this form, then they can add it here. Personally, for me, I do charge a fee to provide quotes. So I do have a question about that on my form. I know that not all of you are going to charge fees. So if you do, please reach out to your mentor or you can reach out to me and I can kind of give you the verbiage that I use for that. But for the sake of this, I'm not going to because I know a lot of people don't charge fees. So as far as questions, that's pretty much it. The next thing that you can do, you can customize the theme. So you can change the colors. You can add a picture at the top, whatever you want to do. Personally, for me, I think I just left mine purple. But this is what you need to do in order to receive your responses. So if you click up here in the middle, it's going to say responses. Obviously, you're not going to have any yet. But if you click these three little dots right here and click select response destination, it will give you the option to create a new Google Sheet. So for me, what I did is I renamed it travel inquiry form, and then it says responses. And when you click create, it's going to make you a spreadsheet for when your clients send in their form. So it'll give you every single question. So just for the sake of this, let me go ahead and create it. And then I will go over here. So let's see if there's anything on it yet. Google Sheets. Let's see. Let me sign in and I will show you guys. So what it's going to do is it's going to populate the timestamp right here. This is going to be when they filled it out, and then it's going to have all of your questions. And then obviously once someone fills it out, you'll have answers. So you can go in and kind of edit this to where you can see everybody's thing. Personally, what I like to do is I like to highlight this entire row and then go over here where there's this little swirly arrow and make sure that it's clicked. And then I also like to center everything. So that way you don't have a column that's like taking up the whole screen, but it still shows the entire question. So once someone fills it out, obviously their answers will populate underneath each of these, and then you have all of their information in one spot. So that is what I do. In order to share this link with other people, what you're going to do is hit send up here. And then you're going to click this little like 2 half circles with a line through it, kind of looks like a link. And personally, what I do is the shorten URL so that it's a lot shorter, and then you can copy and paste it wherever you need to. Personally, I recommend saving this in your notes on your phone or on your computer. I also made a post on my Facebook with this so that it's pinned every time somebody goes to my Facebook page. That's the first thing they see is where to fill out, how to get in touch with me about the trip details that they have. So that is pretty much how that works. Feel free to use whatever form site you want. I know some people use JotForm, but personally, I really like Google Forms because, as I mentioned, it makes you this spreadsheet and it's just a lot easier to keep up with everybody's information. So that's all you need to do for your Google form. Obviously, you can add or take out any questions that you feel are needed or not needed. Totally make it your own, but those are some basic information questions that I think you should include. And then once you have that, I always set up a time to get on the phone with my client as well to kind of go over those details and get some more details, because just those things are not going to give you enough for what they are wanting. But it does give you the basics, and it leaves room for you to have a conversation with them once you get on the phone with them. So that's how I create my Google Forms. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to your mentor, reach out in our Discord chat, and I hope to see you guys soon.